Deep in the Amazon, explorers swore they heard whispers of a city made entirely of gold. A place so dazzling it could make kings out of ordinary men and drive armies into madness. But was El Dorado ever real, or just the deadliest lie in history? Today, we uncover the legend that lured conquistadors into the green abyss and cost countless lives. Imagine stepping into the dense, uncharted Amazon rainforest, humid air pressing down, the roar of unseen animals, and the constant rustle of life in every direction. For the Spanish conquistadors of the 16th century, this green labyrinth wasn't just wilderness. It was the gateway to a dream of unimaginable riches. A word passed through their ranks like fire on dry grass: El Dorado, the Gilded Man, the Golden King, and perhaps a city built entirely of gold. For men driven by greed, glory, and God, this legend was more powerful than any weapon they carried. But what was El Dorado? A man covered in golden dust? A city of shining temples? Or an empire hidden deep in the jungle, waiting to be claimed? The story would change with every expedition, growing taller, stranger, and more impossible. Yet the promise of wealth beyond measure kept the conquistadors marching forward, deeper into a world that was as unforgiving as it was enchanting. This is the story of El Dorado, the legend that blurred the line between myth and madness, and drove men to sacrifice everything in pursuit of gold. Before the Spanish ever set foot in South America, whispers of gold already filled European courts. The Inca Empire dazzled conquistadors with golden temples and ornaments. To them, the New World seemed overflowing with riches beyond imagination. But El Dorado was different. It wasn't just treasure, it was perfection, a place where gold was as common as dust. The myth began in the Andes, where indigenous peoples spoke of a ritual, a king who covered himself in gold dust, then washed it away in sacred waters as an offering to the gods. The Spanish misunderstood this ritual, twisting it into something grander. If there was a gilded king, surely he ruled over a kingdom of gold. Over time, campfire tales transformed the man into a city, the city into a kingdom, and the kingdom into an empire. With every retelling, El Dorado grew richer, brighter, and more unattainable. To the conquistadors, this was no mere fable, it was destiny. Gold was not just wealth, it was divine favor. And so began the feverish hunt, one that would push men into the heart of the Amazon and test the very limits of human endurance. Gold was the lifeblood of the Spanish conquest. Hernán Cortés had claimed Mexico through the promise of Aztec treasures, while Francisco Pizarro dismantled the Inca Empire in search of golden idols. These victories convinced Spain that the Americas were endless mines of riches, ripe for the taking. When rumors of El Dorado reached them, conquistadors believed they had found the ultimate prize. For soldiers who faced hunger, disease, and death in unfamiliar lands, the thought of limitless gold was intoxicating. Expeditions were hastily organized, fortunes invested, and men recruited, all for a dream that shimmered just beyond reach. But obsession can blind. The search for El Dorado wasn't just about wealth, it was about pride. The man who discovered the Golden Kingdom would be immortalized, his name carved into history alongside Cortés and Pizarro. It was a race for glory, one fueled by greed, ambition, and desperation. What the conquistadors didn't realize was that the Amazon was no passive treasure chest waiting to be opened. It was a living, breathing force that would swallow men whole. Yet blinded by visions of golden cities, they marched forward, deeper and deeper into the unknown. In 1541, Gonzalo Pizarro, brother of Francisco Pizarro, launched one of the earliest expeditions to find El Dorado. He gathered over 300 Spaniards and thousands of native porters, setting off into the eastern slopes of the Andes. Their mission? To find the fabled land of cinnamon, rumored to be overflowing with both spices and gold. What followed was a nightmare. The jungle devoured them. Supplies ran out, diseases spread, and hunger reduced men to eating their own horses, leather, and even each other. The promised land of gold never appeared. Instead, the expedition dwindled into desperation. Out of this disaster, one man's fate would change forever: Francisco de Orellana. Left to explore the waterways in search of food, Orellana drifted eastward and accidentally discovered the Amazon River, becoming the first European to traverse it fully. Pizarro returned defeated, his men broken, his reputation stained. Yet despite the suffering, the legend of El Dorado only grew. Each failure seemed to suggest the Golden City was simply deeper, harder to reach, waiting just beyond the next horizon. And so, the obsession tightened its grip on Spain, ensuring more lives would be sacrificed to the myth. Orellana's unintended journey down the Amazon brought more than just survival. It added fuel to the legend. Along the vast river, he claimed to have encountered fierce female warriors, reminding him of the Greek Amazons. This gave the river its name, the Amazon. While Orellana never found El Dorado, his tale convinced Europeans that the rainforest held civilizations as mysterious and powerful as any in the Old World. The thought of warrior queens ruling alongside golden kings sparked new waves of imagination. If women warriors could exist in the jungle, why not a golden empire? Orellana's account transformed the Amazon into a stage for myth, legend, and dreams. To the Spanish, the jungle was no longer just a wilderness. It was a land of secrets, hiding wonders and riches that only the boldest could claim. But every story, every rumor, and every failure only pushed the goalpost further away. The legend of El Dorado began to shift from a tangible place to an ever-moving target, always just out of reach, like a mirage in the desert. And yet, conquistadors kept chasing it, no matter the cost. By the late 1500s, the fever of El Dorado had spread beyond Spain. England's famed explorer, Sir Walter Raleigh, became captivated by the promise of the Golden City. To Raleigh, discovering El Dorado wasn't just about wealth. It was a chance to challenge Spanish dominance in the New World. He ventured into what is now Venezuela, convinced the Golden Empire of Manoa lay hidden along the Orinoco River. His writings described a kingdom so rich that even its streets glittered with gold. Though Raleigh never found the city, his vivid accounts mesmerized Europe. Readers devoured his tales, blending truth and imagination until El Dorado became more real than myth. For Raleigh, the search was personal. His fortunes, his status at court, even his life eventually became tied to his obsession with El Dorado. Though history remembers him as a brilliant yet tragic figure, Raleigh's pursuit ensured the legend spread far beyond Spain, captivating the imagination of generations. El Dorado was no longer just a Spanish dream. It was a European obsession, a symbol of both promise and folly, driving men across oceans and into jungles that offered only silence in return. The Amazon was no silent witness to these invasions. It fought back. The rainforest devoured armies with relentless hunger. Heat, disease, venomous creatures, and starvation claimed more lives than any battle. To the Spanish, it seemed as if nature itself conspired to protect El Dorado. Men who set out with shining armor and grand banners ended in rags, their bones lost beneath the canopy. Entire expeditions vanished, swallowed by rivers and swamps, leaving only rumors behind. Indigenous tribes, skilled in navigating the land, often misled or resisted the invaders, adding to the conquistadors' torment. What gold the Spaniards did find came at terrible cost. Tiny ornaments, trinkets, hints of wealth that convinced them they were close, but never enough to prove the legend true. For every mile gained, a dozen men were lost. The jungle demanded sacrifice, and El Dorado demanded obsession. The myth was powerful, but the reality was brutal. Nature was merciless, and gold, if it truly existed, remained untouchable. Yet the conquistadors refused to turn back, believing that just beyond the next river bend lay the shining city they had dreamed of for so long. As the decades passed, El Dorado began to shift. No longer was it just a city. Some said it was a lake, its bottom covered with golden offerings. Others believed it was an entire kingdom hidden deep in South America, waiting for the chosen conqueror. The legend adapted, always staying one step ahead of failure. Each time an expedition returned empty-handed, stories insisted they had simply searched in the wrong place. The dream refused to die. To Europeans, El Dorado became more than a location. It was a symbol of wealth, ambition, and the endless hunger of empires. For the Spanish, it justified continued conquest. For rival nations, it was a chance to challenge Spanish supremacy. And for ordinary people, it was a story to believe in, a beacon of hope that somewhere in the vast and mysterious jungles of the New World, perfection existed. In this way, El Dorado became eternal. Even as it slipped further from reality, it grew stronger in imagination. Myths have a way of surviving, even when countless lives are lost chasing shadows. Centuries later, archaeologists and historians would dig into the truth behind El Dorado. They discovered that the myth likely began with the Muisca people of Colombia, who performed the Golden King ritual at Lake Guatavita. Their leader would cover himself in gold dust, then dive into the waters as attendants offered treasures to the gods. The Spanish, desperate for wealth, misinterpreted this sacred ceremony as evidence of a golden city. Over time, explorers even attempted to drain Lake Guatavita, hoping to uncover riches. While some golden artifacts were found, there was never enough to prove the existence of El Dorado as imagined. Instead, the lake told a story not of endless wealth, but of deep spiritual traditions. Archaeology revealed that El Dorado was never meant to be a city at all. It was a ritual, a symbol, a cultural practice misunderstood by outsiders blinded by greed. Yet, even with this knowledge, the power of the legend endures. The truth could never quite kill the myth, because El Dorado was never just about gold. It was about humanity's eternal search for something greater, something just beyond reach. El Dorado may never have existed as the conquistadors believed, but its spirit remains alive. It represents ambition, obsession, and the dangers of unchecked desire. The legend shows us how far people will go in pursuit of dreams, across oceans, into jungles, even into madness. But it also reveals something universal, our hunger for discovery, for wonder, for the extraordinary. Every generation has its El Dorado. For the 16th century conquistadors, it was gold. For us today, it might be technology, space exploration, or the quest for immortality. The name changes, but the story remains the same, a dream that pushes us to risk everything in search of something greater. El Dorado may not glitter in the Amazon, but it still lives in our imagination. And perhaps that is its true treasure. Not the gold, not the city, but the story itself. A story that continues to captivate, to haunt, and to remind us that sometimes the greatest riches are not found in the world outside, but in the myths that shape our deepest desires.